Okay. Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
Who's everybody?
It's going well.
Who are you talking to?
Everybody.
Us and the internet.
I'm talking to, that's right, you and the internet. I'm talking to Aaron Gottlieb and Adam Montague, travelers of the country and the world. And I'm Jeff Holbrook, and you are listening to ArTechník Podcast, a podcast about the intersection of art and technology. I like this episode a lot because it feels kind of rebooty in a way, because we're all in different places because
this is truly,
things are changing.
This week is truly an intersection.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Where are you at, Adam?
I am in the third floor library of Lexington Children's Theater in Lexington, Kentucky, zip code 40507. So if you want to find me on Google Maps right now, actually,
nice. Please send.
By the time you actually look it up and this thing posts, I probably won't be here, but I will be in this general area for the next 2 years. Just to be clear.
This vicinity.
Aaron, where are you?
I am still so far in Stone Mountain at home. I've got 99 days before classes start in Italy.
Yowzer.
And what will you be doing in Italy in case people don't, in case this is your first episode, and I hope it is.
Going for my Masters of Fine Art in Physical Theater at Accademia dell'Arte.
And what does that mean?
I don't know yet.
He hasn't gone, Jeff.
That's why you're going.
That's right.
right.
It's about designing
You moron,
characters
that's why I'm leaving.
and shows based from a physical approach with a commedia dell'arte core, which is the stock Italian tradition of characters and somewhat improvised scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somewhat. There was always a blueprint, a map of A to Z, but B through Y were up for grabs.
Yeah. That sounds very similar to when I showed up for work on Wednesday, which, by the way, I'm never going to move ever again because U-Haul was the most miserable experience ever. Not just on the Columbus end, but once I got to Lexington. And I say that, ultimately, like the big U-Haul stores would kind of help me out. But the problem was it kept trying to send me to like the secondary sites, like the mom and pop versions where they're like an antique store that also happens to rent U-Haul equipment.
Right.
Like that's
so like a U-Haul licensee, if you will,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Like not a OEM, but like yeah.
I don't know what those letters mean,
Weird.
but
Yeah.
So if you are going to use U-Haul, only work with like the big name stores, like the ones that have like the big lot in the back with all of the little storage units and all that stuff. Do not go to anything that starts with a cutesy name, because that's what I did and suffered greatly for it. Look!
I know you can go to your, you can get your phone from Sprint or T-Mobile or whatever. But why didn't you come on down to this nice? Come on down to my restaurant. My sister's got a little shop in the back.
Mr. Shazam's,
we resell the network.
So just to give you a little taste, when I went to go pick up the truck in Columbus, the site first off they lost my order the first time. Then they tried to fix it and told me to go pick up the truck at one of these secondary sites. I show up at 11 a.m. on Monday, which is the scheduled time I was supposed to pick up the truck. I pull up to a cinder block building that's probably no bigger than like 20 by 20 feet. The only thing behind the barbed wire gate is the 10-foot truck that I'm supposed to get and the car hitch. This is the only thing. And there's a sign on the door that says, "Sorry for the inconvenience. We won't be open again till Wednesday morning." With no explanation.
We can laugh now.
Yeah, no emergency phone call. So then I went back to the main U-Haul site in Columbus. They fixed it. And then when I got to Lexington and pulled in, it was the same rigmarole. I got called in. They wanted me to come to a meeting like at 1 p.m. on that Wednesday. And I pull into this little mom and pop place that didn't even have enough room for me to pull the truck and the hitch in. Like at all. And so this poor guy behind the counter is like, "Oh no, yeah, just pull in behind the back." And let me tell you, I had planned out the entire trip so that I would never, ever, ever have to back this car hitch up. Because you have to like turn the wheel. It's not intuitive. If you've ever had to drive anything on a hitch, it's complete opposite of the way you think you need to turn the wheel. And so I had planned out this whole trip so that I would never, ever, ever have to back up. He pulls me into this ridiculously tight spot where you essentially get the truck stuck. And then he's like, well, I guess you have to back it out. I'm like, no, I don't.
You have to back it out.
And sure enough, yeah, I threw the keys at him, and it took him 20 minutes to get it out of this ridiculous little hole that he had basically told me to pull into. And all I wanted to do was to take my car off, go into town for this meeting, and then come back at night, pick up the truck so I could take it to the house and unload it. Eventually, that did happen.
Oh my God.
That is the short version of the story. I cannot tell you how angry and frustrated I was on Wednesday. Like, I collapsed Wednesday night at 10:30. Ugh.
So it's not that you won't move. It's just you're
That
never
guy's-
taking your stuff with you again.
Never. I will.
You're
I'm
just
gonna-
throwing it all out, starting fresh everywhere you go.
I'm going to make a big bonfire in the
Speaking
back,
of-
light it on fire. Boom. I'm done.
I have a Jedi funeral for your stuff.
Yes.
Thanks for the dishes, by the way.
You're welcome.
I came home and I realized after helping pack, I was like, oh, I haven't done dishes. I have Adam's. Excellent.
I'm glad I could enable your
So it was-
bad habits.
That's right. Yes. I have done dishes since then. I'm so excited that we are trying this for the first time, as you have no doubt figured out, all remotely, because we are artists and therefore we're sort of freelancers or temporary job holders or semi-permanent job holders while doing lots of other things. And in the arts, that kind of means that you go where the work is. Again, if you are just joining us for this episode, I think this is a great episode to jump in on, because yes, we are artists, but we are also very passionate and have very different skill set levels and experiences with different kinds of technology. And so we're kind of fond of, I would say, guys, of figuring out how, as artists, we can use technology to do interesting things, how technology can get better through an artistic point of view, and who is out there in the world doing really, really strange and interesting things with technology, right? I'd say that sums up the show, yeah?
Yep. If we were
Sounds
writing
good.
a grant, that would be in our
Yeah.
mission statement. Yep.
If we were writing a grant. So...
Do they give
So
grants
we
for
ramble and we talk
podcasts?
about, lots of things, but
If not, Aaron, they should give
if they
grants.
do, we should apply.
Oh,
But we usually move into articles and things like that after a little bit of follow-up. I don't want to rush anything,
No.
but I'm just kind of trying to guide whoever may
Sure.
have just put their little earbuds in their ears and have just joined us today.
Oh,
So,
can I?
yeah, welcome, and this is what you got.
Let me welcome. Speaking of family, let me welcome you in with a story about
Yes.
family. Last week on the podcast, I talked about my nephew Connor, who has started to pick up the profanity habits of my mother, his grandmother, because Connor is just graduated kindergarten, so he was in a half-day program, so he spends a lot of time around her, and they caught him muttering swears and particularly antiquated swears under his breath, like, that really frost my cookies, or, muttering dumbass and things like that, which are all things that my mother does. So again, my brother texted me this story the other day. The whole family was in the van. They were driving down a road. Some guy cut in front of my brother, and so he had to slam on the brakes pretty quickly, and almost as soon as that happened, my mother goes, man, I bet he says, man, I bet you he thinks he's hot shit. And then Connor immediately goes, is that what printed on his license plate? Yeah.
What was printed on his license plate?
I don't know, but yeah. So that was, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out how this kid is forming the rules of his spelling universe.
So there you go. So that was just the nail in the coffin of he is clearly absorbing everything my mother is throwing out there. So watch out, America. There's another one of my mothers coming.
Well, it can't be any worse than how I put together the spelling universe with my various forms of dyslexia and learning disabilities. I was convinced for years that somebody at the beginning of language was quite clever and had decided that push would be pull spelled backwards.
Yeah.
Because you would look at a glass door at like a convenience store, and in the exact same spot on one side it would say push, and on the same side on the other side it would say pull. And my light comprehension of how letters worked equated that meant that, like, if you actually flipped the word push 180 degrees backwards, it would actually spell out pull, and wasn't that awfully convenient. And that there was just one sticker showing on both sides of the door.
Yeah. See, I like that rule. That's an intuitive rule, I think, which is...
That's really efficient.
It would have been brilliant had it been anywhere near true.
But I guess that would also say, though, that one word is the dominant or the correct way to do it.
And then one is backwards.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like a weird form of ambigram before I knew what one of those was.
Ambigram. Agreed.
I took 2 of those today for my headache, I think.
All right. that
article.
That would explain. Yeah. Okay, I've got, speaking of intuition, which I did. It's a forced segue. Anyway, the BBC...
Wasn't that a Jewel song?
Forced segue? No, that'd be... Okay, never mind.
Yes.
So the BBC...
Yes, it was.
The BBC has developed...
Never heard of them.
All right. They're over in England, over in the United Kingdom, and they're the end-all, be-all of media, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, the BBC has developed a new reactive radio broadcast that is able to adapt to the listener.
Shut your face.
No, I will not. This is a podcast. So they've developed this new program. They don't have any shows that are using this technology yet, but I think they're looking to do that. But they said essentially the way it works is using, I guess, sort of the location finder devices that are in a lot of smartphones, and I guess if you're driving around in your car and those OnStar things, whatever, that it uses that location tracking stuff to incorporate it into the broadcast. So say, for example, if you were listening to a radio drama, it might incorporate locations that are in your immediate vicinity into the broadcast. Or maybe it's a cooking show, or it's a show about, good places to eat. It'll scan and be adaptive and find the places that are near you at the moment that you are listening through your phone or your radio in your car, your radio at home, and will constantly sort of be tailoring the entertainment and the information to you. And part of the way it does that too, and it will also adapt things like volume level through, I guess you would have to activate the microphone or the sort of headset receiver on your phone, on your mobile, or in the car, and would just be this sort of adaptive programming. Yeah, so the BBC's got it out there.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering the privacy issues on something like that, but go ahead, Aaron.
I could see it working for the commercial breaks in between programs where it could, localize to where you are, and that being a very desirable thing. But for the actual content itself, I wonder how it could do anything useful for 20,000 listeners at the same time.
Well, yes, I agree. However, again, they didn't release a lot of, I guess, sort of samples of how this works. I'm just taking it on faith that they said, we've got this thing. I would imagine that even in the context of like the radio dramas, it would still be like that segment would sort of be sort of a drop-in template, with fields. You know what I mean? And so it would be sort of a plug-in. So they might, generate, 40 minutes of programming that is straight to the script, but then 10 minutes of it is adaptive and reflexive to the user, to the listener. Yeah.
That's interesting. That whole idea, the larger idea of individual content for individual people, drives me a little batty, like as a consumer of it, because I think I like absolutes in certain things, especially in my information, more than I like. Well, you're going to get this, and this is going to be a little different because it increases that echo effect, the echo chamber thing that we've talked about a lot, where it reinforces the things that you're interested in and makes things that you might be interested in but never have exposure to more obtuse and harder to get to. It's like I'm not even very fond of how Google, even if you're not signed in as anyone, will display different results for different people based on geography for non-obvious things, like not just you search for a restaurant and it's going to show you restaurants in your town based on the numbers of your IP address, rather than restaurants not in your town, because that kind of makes some sense to me.
Sure.
But just whenever it's completely different sets of data based on what they think your region or your town would be interested in, or data that they've got collected based on, well, this IP address, signed in or not, we get a lot of hits for this site or this site or this site, and so we're going to tailor things this way.
Yeah.
And that always drives me nuts. I think it drives me nuts as a performer because I want to keep track of kind of my image and my brand word, and what I'm putting out there in the world and how it's being tracked by Google or whatever. But it also just makes me crazy as a human being, because it's like I would just like one stream, please. Yeah.
Right. And it does. But I think, obviously, I'm saying that obviously, I think we understand that those sort of suggestions and hits and tailoring it to each individual consumer comes back to the word consumer. It's advertising. They're trying to, target a certain demographic. Yep. But if, that's the sort of, I guess, the trade-off that we accept, that there's a certain level of accessibility in terms of programs and things that we like that are out there on the internet, but they are accessible because there are larger advertisers sort of picking up, paying for that content to be there.
Did you see the new Banksy image talking
we
about
can come
advertisers?
back to this, but that's...
What'd you say?
Did you see the new Banksy image about his reaction to advertisers?
The Coca-Cola bottle thing?
With the rant in the text.
I do not know what this is. I don't even know what Banksy is.
Banksy is this anonymous visual artist. Literally, there is some speculation as to who the person is, but they've done a pretty good job and a lot of subterfuge to try and keep the identity of the artist completely hidden. He kind of came to, it could be a girl, I don't know, we assume it's a boy. He came to prominence doing a lot of sort of guerrilla graffiti type art in Los Angeles, and I think there was some in Berlin and a couple of major cities around the world, and has kind of become known for this really subversive guerrilla kind of the moment, just kind of rush in, do something, and rush out sort of art. Yeah.
Okay. Did you see the weird? A lot of his stuff. There was a weird Simpsons opening where they went through like the Korean sweatshop where the DVDs were being made. Like the unicorn was punching the hole in the middle, and he was chained up to all four sides. And did you see that opening?
And Banksy, and Banksy's the one that actually storyboarded that opening.
And then they sent it to the Korean sweatshop to animate.
Yeah.
But right.
But so talk about what the image was, Aaron, and what it talks about.
It's it's a very clearly, it's red and white, the right Pantone colors, and the contour bottle of Coca-Cola, and it's just a paragraph that turns into this image the way it's kerned out, about how advertisers can have this right to protect their imagery and stuff, and he is saying that they have no rights, that if they force an image in front of you against your will, then you may seize it, do with it what you will, and they shouldn't have the power, and that they have taken it. And it's just very similar to this idea that, well, we have to let various news sources filter their information because the advertisers are paying for it. And it triggered that connection for me.
Sure.
Wasn't there a recent PBS stink about that? There was a very large family donor, the Koch family.
Oh,
Do we know this?
The
we don't.
KOCH.
I'm just killing air.
Are you talking about the KOCH,
Yes.
the Koch brothers?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And that
What
they
about
have less good business practices, but yet they sponsor all sorts of PBS stuff.
Well, it was specifically. I think there was a big stink recently that PBS was going to do a NPR. What I don't know if it was video or radio, but they were going to do some sort of feature story about them and about the not good things that they do, and then they pulled it out of fear of losing their sponsorship.
Oh,
which is kind of scary in terms of public television and radio.
Sure,
I would say.
Okay, I didn't know about that. Wow. It's funny.
Oh man, I got you on one.
Yeah, I just think it's based on everything that I know about the Koch brothers and the business practices and the type of political assuasions that they give money to. I am very surprised that they are a big supporter of public.
It sounds like they do it so that they can control what's said about them.
Maybe. Actually,
I think you're right, Aaron. Hush money.
You know what? You're right. Actually, they did just a big push that they are actually acquiring a couple of major newspapers out there at the moment. They're that'll be controlled as one of their subsidiaries, and that's what people are really nervous about right now, is them controlling the message. Because again, these are billionaire brothers, and they really have their hand in everything, every major sort of corporate maneuver that is going on in the United States and by extension the world. They are major players, so people should be concerned.
Yeah,
there was a funny juxtaposition on PBS station I listened to quite recently. They've been playing these little blurbs about why public radio is important and matters, and it was somebody talking about how they were commercial free, and that was important because you weren't being blared with brand messages all the time. And they immediately cut to a sponsor clip, where it's the Morning Edition is brought to you by Sleep Systems International. Find the sleep number that's right for you. And it's not like a commercial in that they're not like, hey, come buy a sleep system. It's $99.99. But just the absolute
but
back-to-back.
It's still a commercial.
It is still a commercial, and the absolute back-to-back of, I love that public radio is commercial free. Brought to you by Sleep Number.
Right. But again, it comes back to, we want the internet, we want this information to be as free as possible, and reasonably it's only free because somebody steps in and foots the bill for it.
True.
Yeah. Right. So, we accept a certain level of that sort of interference, sort of interrupting the flow and interrupting the stream. I remember hearing oh goodness, what is ad blocker? Ad blocker, which is a program that you can download and will filter out a lot of the, I guess, more harassing sort of ads that you see as you scroll around the internet. And they just recently have switched over to, as opposed to before, they just had, I guess, all of these keywords that filtered out, and they, I guess, kind of described it as sort of a scorched earth method, like it blocked out everything. Now they've gotten a lot smarter, and they've sort of refined their business model so that now they have sort of sites and companies that are allowed to pass through the filter, but only if they pay. So they have kind of become this sort of unofficial gatekeeper to a lot of the sort of internet in terms of the ads you see and things like that.
You have to buy the ad and bribe them to let people see the ad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
yeah.
how is that determined on the user's end then? The user says, I would like to see ads from X, Y,
Surely
Z,
not.
or is it
I think it's just forced on
an
them by
algorithm?
ad blocker.
The algorithm. Yeah,
okay.
The user is still downloading the ad blocker program, but from the corporate end, certain companies are paying into ad blocker to be allowed to pass through the filter.
Then why the blankety blank would I download ad blocker?
Because you can get rid of 75% of ads.
Right. And
that's not as good as, you know what? I can just go get a frickin' Chrome or frickin' Safari extension and disable Flash or disable Java or whatever the frick I want to do and not have to see anything without getting an ad blocker specific.
Until it evolves and there's a new way, because that's the thing. There was on this same piece that I heard about this this ad blocker filter pass whatever. There was a guy that was talking about, and he has a website where he reviews and talks about video games and all these things, and he based on his business model, had started to allow certain advertisers to come in because he needed a way to pay for the site. But what started to happen was users on the site were bristling to the fact that now there were these ads and everything. And so he's kind of stumped and stymied as to what the next step is, because he can't really afford to lose users, but he has to make money on it. He can't just put that out there for free.
Sure.
Well, to be fair, consumers in general are a bunch of entitled, spoiled brats, and I include myself high up on that list.
If we can get it for free, why pay?
Right. Which was just all of our visceral
Internet
reaction
consumers
to.
especially. Yeah.
Right. And that was when he started to survey a lot of his users, that was the very generalized response. They were basically like, well, look, if this becomes like you give us some of the information for free, but you make us pay for special content or whatever model you go to, he says, we'll just find somebody else. We'll just go to another site that is free.
And that's a game that you can't, I think, even enter into, really, because if you start playing the game of there's always going to be, it's just like acting, there's always going to be someone younger, prettier, cheaper, right? So if you start playing that game of chasing the bottom of like, then there's no way you can ever trust me, there's no way you can ever build a sustainable business model out of something like that, because your margins were barely there to begin with, and then they're non-existent. Now, I have seen a couple of sites that I know that I really enjoy move into hey, we're not going to do any ads, but we are going to do a subscription model. But a lot of these things are tech sites where the people that read it and the people that produce it are sort of already on the same page of like, okay, I kind of sort of get why I should pay for it and why it should be worth.
It's harder and harder the more we're
a danger in. Yeah.
The more we are in digital media, there isn't this thing that you hold in your hand. Therefore, it is hard to conceptualize value of the thing. If it magically appears on your screen, why should you have to pay actual money?
Right. But we all know it's not magic, right? We all know that someone sat there and took away a chunk of their lives to create something that hopefully, if they're making it at all, that they really, really care about. I would hope, while it doesn't automatically mean that has to be worth something, especially if it's no good.
Right.
I do think it's fair for them to say, hey, I do think this is worth something, and therefore I will set a price on it. And I don't know how long the free ride can last, how long the freemium model is going to work, or are we just all going to eventually kind of get used to, there's some stuff we're going to pay for, because otherwise the whole internet kind of economy is gonna bottom out. I mean, you look at ebook price fixing, that.
My gut thinks it'll swing the other way. Like, I don't think it's going to be individuals paying for content. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a tighter corporate hold over the information and the flow, which is already kind of starting to happen. And so the content will be there still free, but it's going to be heavily filtered through the people that are putting the money in, whether it's the Koch brothers or,
Yeah, we're going to go through a network TV model for a while. I mean,
well,
Hulu started with one
okay.
15-second ad per 30-minute show. And then you had commercial breaks with one 15-second ad every commercial break. And now it'll be a 2 to 3 minute commercial break at the same places it would be on network television. And you're no longer getting the benefit of, I can watch it on Hulu and not have commercial breaks. It's I can watch it on Hulu just like I could on network television.
Right. Yeah, but
it's whenever I want it.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't know if the network model that we're talking about is a true comparison, because with the
I agree.
I agree. With the network model. Let me say the difference is with the network model, you had advertisers that are supporting content and put it up there, or if you're talking about like a cable pay subscription, you pay certain company for access to so many channels. The difference is on the internet, you've got that mix of paying for Hulu Premium and then people that are grabbing the sitcom that just posted last night and putting it on a free download site. Like it's I don't know.
Guys, Hulu is looking for a buyer every other week, it feels like. Yeah. Like, it feels like it feels like I keep reading articles where it's like, oh, Hulu once again is looking for a buyer. Disney was trying to unload them. Microsoft was trying to unload their stake in them. Yahoo may pick them up, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I think the spirit of what Aaron is saying, I agree with.
Yes.
But I also agree with the logistics that Adam's talking about. The model is going to change from, if by network, Aaron, you mean like top-down tight reins, and if Adam, you mean by it's not a fair comparison, you mean the distribution pipes and where the money's coming from and going, and and how all that works is very different logistically, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, if things are moving towards content owned by big money, let's say.
Sure.
Right?
The oligarchs.
And even big money currently. Yeah, okay. All right. I remember that in a social studies book or something. If big money owns big content, right? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, big money can't make money on the content that they own, right? Otherwise, Hulu would be doing better. Otherwise, because if this stuff were really profitable, yes, I do think it's the future because it's also the present right now. Right. But if this stuff were really making as much money as they would want it to make, wouldn't it be a little more ubiquitous by now? Wouldn't it be a little easier to get to?
Right.
And wouldn't you have things like HBO Go not saying, hang on, we've got a revenue model to protect. We are bundled with cable subscriptions.
Yeah.
Therefore, we cannot just willy-nilly give you this video, even if you pay us for it.
Yes.
Which is frustrating as a user.
Right. But
I get why they're doing it.
Right. And that's the problem, is we're talking about trying to figure out how to monetize intellectual property ideas that are out there, even things that are created that are put out there.
Yeah, and I've been failing at that for years.
Well, you're missing a key component, Jeff. I said intellectual. Sorry. But you look at something like Apple, Apple is what I meant to say. I kept trying
words,
to say,
nouns.
Thank you. Yeah, they weren't coming out. But the idea of like iTunes, they put iTunes out there as an intellectual idea and a music sharing at a loss. But where they made their money was selling the hardware. They sold the iPods, they sold the iPads and all of those things. That's where they made their money, because again, it came back to a tangible thing they could put out there and not, the music. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think that's also to tie it back to what we were talking about a little while ago. I think that's why Android's strategy was brilliant from day one. As soon as I understood. Okay, so the iPhone comes out. It's a big deal for those of us who care, and a big deal to some other people too. But then when Android comes out, it takes the opposite point of view, right? It says, okay, clearly the market is pretty involved in this walled garden, all-in-one, device-centric, curated kind of thing. Well, that's great, but there's a lot of other hardware out there to tap that's cheap, that's going to have a high turnover rate. There's, that... we can develop this core piece of software for, shine up some Linux, call it Android, and be able to distribute it to a whole plethora of different hardware, we can fill the rest of the market, and we can be ubiquitous, and we can be everywhere faster and we'll lose money on it because we're selling our services. They're not selling you. Google's not selling you the phone, the device, or whoever's reselling it. You're getting an Android phone. What you're really doing is they'll take the hit on that and the loss on that because they say, we need you in the ecosystem so that you can make money. And what I have seen, since I am not an Android user, although it is very interesting to me, what I've got to see as an observer of it has been, okay, it's sort of what you would expect from a model like that of, okay, everything's kind of a mess and kind of everywhere. There's some gems here and there. And then you watch this sort of exponent curve of, oh, here comes some polish. Here comes something interesting. Oh, Google's making their own hardware, not so much because they want to make money of it, but because they're saying, hey, here's how good it could be. Yeah. That inspires other people to develop better applications. It all gets better and better, tying back into more people using Google services, tying into more increasing the advertising revenue that they see coming from those devices, creating eventually this latest, I think, personified in the latest iteration I've seen of Google Play, it feels like almost out of nowhere, a nice, cohesive experience, at least from what I have seen of the websites reflecting how to purchase and acquire content through the web interface that I've seen. Now, I don't know what it is like to buy it on the devices because I don't own one, but I suddenly see like the game upping in a really great way, and I think that they are set to sort of surpass soon, and I think it's good because Apple needs to catch up.
Jumping in, talking about the big boys, the big corporations coming in and making something possible. I saw this thing this week that Amazon is getting into publishing fan fiction for like larger properties, like
Oh, they've been doing it forever. It's called Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay, yeah, but they're now flaunting it, if that makes sense. They've come up with.
Are you
new
saying
title.
Like sanctioned fan fiction?
Yes. Wait, what?
Sanctioned by the creators?
No.
Okay.
But they are putting it out there in such a way that they are acknowledging that it is that's something they want to monetize. They want to figure out how they can make money off of it. And so you download it to your Kindle or whatever for like $1, and the publisher gets up to 30%, I think, or something like. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds like they're doing it through the Kindle Direct.
And
yes. You know what's going to happen?
The real owner is going to pull them all off their Kindle devices.
Say that again, Aaron.
Yes, exactly.
The real owner is going to complain. And you're going to have paid $1, and Amazon is going to have the ability to suck it right back off your Kindle device just as easily as they put it on there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, at
and then
the
maybe
moment,
they'll give you your $1 back.
No.
Well, at the moment, like I said, they are trying to figure out a way to flaunt it, and so they are acknowledging that this is not sanctioned by if it's Harry Potter, Warner Brothers, or whoever owns the property. That they're putting that they are just providing a way to access it and to distribute it for the people that are out there writing it already. Now, again, it comes back to if it's already free somewhere else, why are you going to pay for it? So
I'm surprised that they are able to find that much family-friendly, general audience level fan fiction enough to publish.
It doesn't have to be family-friendly, though.
No.
Okay.
It could be all slash.
Yeah. Because they were saying that one of their biggest sellers right now, or titles in terms of generated fan fiction, are coming from properties like Gossip Girl and Vampire Diaries and things like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
a lot of throbbing loin books, they call them in the biz.
Do they
call them that? But I do.
Throbbing loins. My purple-headed ferret trouser ferret. I almost got it out.
I was told quite clearly when I went for my audiobook audition that I would not be getting any throbbing loin books to read because it would weird people out to have a 13-year-old reading them erotica.
Unless they did like a reverse gender Lolita.
Yeah. Then I'd be first on their list.
You would be the guy to call.
Ding dong, prison calling.
Well,
So yeah, but how on earth, if you are our size and you're creating, get your mind out of the gutter, guys. If you are content creator wise, if you are our level, and you are trying to create stuff that you would like to make $1 on, not to buy your next mansion, but to buy your next sandwich, is that gonna stay? Is that possible anymore? Is that gonna stay? If you take this idea to its extreme.
Sure. I don't know if it was ever. I don't know if it was ever possible. I think that's part of the problem. Is a lot of people.
It is. People do it. Like, but
what happens is they get picked up. Like,
but people do it.
Yes, but I think
not always.
We are past that wave. Like, I think this was a grand experiment that started a decade or less ago,
right.
Because people were just trying it out, and the people that were successful and generated goodwill and a fan base were picked up and more largely distributed, and then other people weren't. And now I think there is probably a hesitancy to pick up that new thing, because even the ones that are out there that are successful by our standards are still pretty low on the totem pole. And so I think there's still I don't know. Again, everybody's still waiting and seeing largely for how this gets done.
I disagree with you on this, and I know that sometimes I live in a bubble, but go look at someone like Jonathan Colton, right? Go look at people that have achieved sort of, I don't know if mainstream's the right word.
Sustainable
I think
success.
the problem is reframing and is redefining what success is. Is success having billions of dollars, or is success having a steady gig that lets you live your life doing nearly exclusively the thing that you love to do, right? And in that definition of success, I have to dispute you, because it exists, and you know about it, and you heard about it, and you can quantify it with names and people and entities who, if you ask man on the street, who is so and so, I have no idea. Most people don't know who Pat Flynn is. Most people don't know who Ash Ambridge is. Most people don't know. Enough people know kind of Jonathan Colton.
Okay, I'm going to come back from Jonathan Colton with this.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, it was timing. There's sort of a burst of early adopters who did it in the same way that, and this just happens to be on my mind recently, Sid Caesar, Carl Reiner, and Mel Brooks were able to get this amazing empire in their early 20s because they happened to be the first team on the field. They were doing television comedy the moment the cameras clicked on and were functional and useful to get to people's homes. Whereas the three of us could come up with stuff that was funny and creative and new and original, and it would be lost in the noise so that we wouldn't be able to take the field as substantially as they were on television, or even at this point on the internet. We're too late for that first wave of look what we can do with the internet people. And I think Jonathan Colton and those other sort of people who really have made it from a garage band sort of environment to notoriety, certain level of success that we have decided is our key word here, were able to do it from a timing standpoint, almost more than a unique quality or skill level.
So sort of the outliers philosophy. Yes?
It sounds true, but tell me more about your outliers philosophy.
Outliers, from what I remember, it's essentially saying that it's essentially taking this timing thing you're talking about and quantifying it and saying, why do some people break and some people don't? In various kinds of fields, in sports and other kinds of fields. And basically, a lot of times, the reason that people break when others don't is because they are a temporal oddity, right? For example, one of the examples I use in the book is the time of year that kids go into, I believe, I don't remember if it's baseball or hockey, but let's say, I'll make it more general. At this time of year, kids that are 5 years old get to sign up for this sport.
Okay.
Well, 5 years old is very different if you're born in January versus if you're born in October. Right? If you quantify, and so what happens is outlier things, you take that to an extreme and you say, okay, the right number of people that happen to have been born later in the year might, I can't remember if it's later or earlier, but you get what I'm saying. Basically, depending on when you became 5, you are older, and if you became 5 in January and you're sporting against a 5-year-old who turned 5
yesterday,
like last week, you are physically more developed.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You're mentally more developed. You can do things better. And if you have a whole team of those, or a large enough batch of those to swing things a certain way, that team is going to look like a rock star team, and people are going to go, wait a minute, how on earth are they so great at what they're doing? Because we assume they all have a level playing field, and they don't. They never did.
Right. And
while I agree with you that there was a certain wave of that where, look at what I can do with the internet. Okay, yeah, look at us. This thing is shiny and new. And while that's always been true in every media breakpoint, then there's, I think, the next wave of people that figure out how to make this thing sustainable by understanding what the rules are now and by using them. And an example I would cite with that would be Ash Ambridge of the Middle Finger Project. She is a copywriter, but she she's not. I don't know how long she's been doing selling these courses. I don't think it's been very many years. Certainly not so recent that it's like, oh, you're the first one out doing this. But she's able to sell downloadable copywriting courses as well as in-person things and sort of all that kind of stuff, building her brand, building kind of her platform, and able to live offshore and do all the kinds of things that she wants, making a good amount of revenue. And she would not, I'd say, qualify in that I just broke kind of period that you're talking about. She's someone that said, oh, okay, here's what the game is now, and here's how we do it. A related book would be Michael Hyatt's book, Platform, where he talks about sort of a similar thing. And anyway, I think, yes, the iron is no longer hot in that regard. But I think it is a bigger iron than we're giving it credit for, or a differently shaped iron. I think there's there are ways to pursue these kinds of business models that are not based on blind luck. I hope I break that sort of actor mentality. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's where I'm going. I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that the very nature of what it is in flux. Like the dust hasn't settled in terms of your analogy about the game, the game, and people are coming in at different ages, experience levels. I think the whole nature of what the game has changed, or is transitioning, and that's my point of view.
Yeah, but it always is, isn't it? It always is.
Right.
There's never a point where it's like it's now and it's the good old days, and it's always the people that are saying that have a really firm grasp on what the is happening right now that are able to strike and be either the early adopters like Aaron's talking about, or be the person that says, oh, okay, people are going to rest and assume that, oh, well, that thing's over and here we are now, and not see the opportunities in the current landscape that's created, that landscape that is constantly shifting under your feet. But I don't think there's ever going to be, I don't think there ever has been or ever will be a time that there is not an opportunity if your eyes are open to it and you are flexible with what you do. Now, there is a time limit on, your age and your responsibility level and your skill set. And, if the world of mushroom cooking opened up tomorrow, I could not seize that opportunity because I don't have those skills and I don't have that interest, right? Competitive mushroom cooking, whatever. But for example, I have been cultivating, sorry to be personal, but I have been cultivating certain sets of skills to try to learn things that over and over again have set me up to be in the right spot to make a lateral move. Like, I learned a bunch of this e-commerce stuff and this WordPress stuff working on the things that we're doing, and that set me up for a lateral move to be able to employ those skills as a blogger in this job thing I've got coming up. You know, and just constantly times where you start to, where I'm just saying I'm encouraging you to have a really big plate, and not to put more on than you can handle, but to like sample as much stuff as you can so that you can ultimately find the thing that is going to enable your definition of success, whatever the hell it is, whatever makes you happy and doesn't cause you to starve to death. Yeah? Maybe I took a left jog, but that's where my brain is with it.
Okay.
I hear a lot of breathing.
Uh-huh.
We're just absorbing for a second.
Well, I think...
did I take us too far off field? Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just debating about whether to move on to another topic or keep talking about this one. Because
I guess so. We've probably killed this. We've got like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Well, then, I will take your disco cloud and raise you bubble lasers.
What are bubble lasers?
Bubble lasers are another sort of... It's really meant to be about the science and the practical application, but it kind of makes cool looking stuff by accident as you go along. So they were developing, this team was developing lasers that could sort of track movement. So like if you were standing at the front of a lecture hall and you wrote a word with your finger in front of you, the laser would pick it up and keep it suspended in the air in front of you.
Oh, wow.
So it tracks motion, instantly relays that to the laser projector system, and turns that into data of what to project. And to sort of test and refine this, they wanted to track something difficult to see. And so they started tracking soap bubbles. And now the laser outlines the soap bubble in real time as the bubble drifts through the air. And you get these floating, wobbly laser rings in a dark room where you can sort of see the soap bubbles, but mostly what you see is this set of floating laser rings. And so, of course, what other choice did they have but to start playing Daft Punk and blowing bubbles and letting the lasers trace them out? So I'm going to post...
And so if you go and you pop those bubbles, will it do a laser trace of the bubble popping?
I don't think so. I think it'll just stop tracking and therefore turn off the laser ring unless you set
What if you use a laser to pop the bubble?
Oh, well, apparently the laser doesn't quite pop the bubble because they float for a moment, but I guess you could turn the temperature up and see what happens.
Wouldn't it be awesome if they could trace the poppage of the bubble, right? And let's say you go to it, and just as an art piece, this might be fun. But you have a bunch of kids or whatever. Trace. They find a bubble, and they're being laser traced or whatever, and they pop the bubble. And when you pop the bubble, an algorithm kicks in to increase the size of the laser traced bubble exponentially to record the motion of it popping, play it back half or even quarter speed all at the same time. So as you go pop these bubbles, they suddenly expand huge and unfurl into nothing. And like you've got like hundreds of those. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes.
Yep.
That would be cool. And fortunately for you, Jeff, all of this stuff is available open source. And if you go get yourself a high rendering computer and some lasers, you can figure out how to take this laser bubble software and do whatever it was you just described.
Yep.
I have Wiimotes.
I just saw a theater piece that was based around Wiimotes. All of his tech control.
Wiimotes are deceptive technology, aren't they? Because
simplicity?
You always think that... because you think that the remote is zapping out a light, but it's not. It's the receiver that's zapping out a light, and the remote's just a camera. That's so cool.
Yeah. And then the Bluetooth connection. Basically, it was a one-man puppet show where, I may have talked about this, he was in and out of his own animation, and the puppet would swim behind the screen and turn into an animated character and go across the screen and do something he couldn't do live on stage, and then reappear on the other side of the screen and resume the puppetry. And he had this little self-crafted Wiimote holster on his belt, and so as he was in the middle of the puppet show, he could click the A button and it would play the next piece of animation, so it was always perfectly synced and timed up. It was Alvin Sputnik, Deep Sea Explorer from from
you
Perth.
tell me about that. Huh.
That is brilliant. Oh, if you have a Wii and you have I don't know if they have this for PC or not, but if you have a Mac, I know it will work. And if you've got a drum kit from Rock Band or what's the other one, Guitar Hero, then go grab a free piece of software called OSC, the letters, OSC U-Later, ULATOR, OSC U-Later. And that will enable a Bluetooth connection from your Wiimote to your iMac, and go open GarageBand or Logic or whatever, turn on your drum kits, and you can use the drums as Bluetooth drums that you can record into GarageBand or your audio workstation of choice into, and that's kind of neat. And that's one of the ways I was trying to learn to play drums. Thanks to Aaron for donating the Guitar Hero drums.
Fortunately, I'm no good at that part of the game.
Well, guys, anything else? Or
What were you saying, Aaron?
I'm no good at the drum part of the game, so it was easy enough to give up and hand it off.
Yeah.
Well, any other follow-up or anything else, guys? Or should we move on to sign-offs?
I think move on to sign-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm Aaron, and I appreciate you putting up with this disjointed conversation as we learn to pick up nonverbal cues from each other over the internet.
I'm Jeff, and I miss my friends who live in this little box on my desk now.
I'm Adam, and I'm going to find out what happens late at night in the library.
Is that a book reference that I don't
he's
get because
sitting
I
in
don't
the
read?
library, and he's locked in for the night.
Yeah, I'm locked in for the night, so I'm curious if, like, the stories come to life and play
They
themselves
provided
out.
him housing, but it just turned out to be the library.
Add librarian to your list of duties.
Like when the Muppets were locked in the Museum of Art, and that little Egyptian boy got helped to heaven by Big Bird.
I saw somebody freaking out trying to convince people that this video she remembered was real, and I went over to her and I was like, tell me, I'll believe you. And she started explaining it to me, and I was like, don't eat the pictures. I used to have this same freak out till I learned the title. It exists. I believe you, sister. And she basically started sobbing with relief on my shoulder. It was fantastic. It was a very cleansing moment for both of us.
Yeah. If you've never seen it, you need to watch it. It is a truly bizarre, I think, stepping out for the Sesame Street characters, and this came out in like the 80s, I think, probably. Maybe mid to early 80s.
Yeah.
And and so the premise is, for those that are listening and, again, wondering what the hell we're talking about, all of the characters, the humans and Muppets that were on Sesame Street at the time, go to the museum and accidentally get locked in there for the night. And there's, in the Egyptian exhibit, there's this little Egyptian boy that comes to life, and Big Bird sees him, and he has to help him basically earn his place as a star in the sky next to his mother and father. Whereas while
I have heard of that.
Yeah, while Cookie Monster is trying not to eat all the delicious looking still lifes of fruit and cookies and other things that are all around the museum. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, there you go. Look it up.
Look it up. Don't eat the pictures. No.
All right.
When you go to museum.
We should say goodbye, Internet.
Goodbye, Internet.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Internet.